Good morning, everyone. It is January 5th, and we are 100% officially back in our normal day-to-day lives of either work or job search, maybe a pivot. And we are officially coming back together after time with family, friends, and the holidays can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And sometimes they're full of joy and happiness, and other times there can be sadness and hurt and pain. And regardless of the posture that you have today, either live with us with the large group of folks that we have today, or watching, of course, after the fact and catching this on YouTube or some of our socials, I really want to start the idea off that a new year is always exciting. And regardless of whether you finished 2025 on an absolute high, or even if you felt that 2025 was an absolute low, the new year is fun because it gives you an opportunity to make adjustments. It gives you an opportunity to kind of create a natural pause, ability to be able to shift and change in the direction of where you want your life to go, whether you're doubling down on the greatness of a wonderful year, or you're looking to recreate and rebuild and reshape and direct your life in a whole new direction in 2026. And the way that most people do this is New Year's resolutions. And that's a normal thing, and it's kind of fatty, and people do this for gyms, and this is the reason why if you go to the gym, you'll see it's packed right now, and then really sometime in the next 2 weeks, if you're really not committed, or maybe your goals are too big, or maybe even in February, you're going to see this dissipate, and all of a sudden people start to drop out. The New Year's resolutions will fall apart. Well, today, what I want to introduce is a better concept. I want to introduce something that's very different than the idea of a resolution. I want to ask everybody, instead of just resolutions, I want you to really think about how you can stand firm. And so we're creating this 28-day challenge that's centered around you having strong, firm foundation, strong feet, right? And we'll get into more about why I'm going to call it feet a little bit later on. But the idea here is we want to make sure that everybody understands that before we really build out these goals or these resolutions, we really have to understand that those come from and can be achieved only through powerful habits. Because January is always full of good intentions. Everybody's adding things to their plate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I mentioned gyms earlier. Maybe you've gone in, you color-coded your calendar. Your motivation is high, or even you're trying to find your motivation right now to do the things, all the overwhelming things you put upon yourself, right? And yet, every single year when we do this, and we see this across all of the Western world, everything dissipates. It falls apart. And it's not because people are lazy. It's not because people don't care. It's because most resolutions really truly rely on motivation. And I know this is crazy because this is Mindset Monday, and the whole idea of this is to build motivation, but motivation is unreliable. It's an up and down roller coaster. So let's really understand quickly how resolutions fail because they depend on motivation. Okay, so motivation requires a tremendous amount of energy, and everyone's energy fluctuates. You hear me speak about this, about emotional calories, right? That's the energy being excluded, right? You take those calories in so you can give more out. The idea of this presentation that I'm giving you this now, this talk, this conversation is emotionally draining, right? I'm pouring into this, mind, body, and soul. You do the same thing every single day. And as that energy fluctuates, right? Stress can drain your energy. Life will interrupt it, which causes disruption. Disruption, of course, can drain your energy. And when your motivation starts to drop, then the behavior stops. That's when people really start to fail, right? They don't just fail in January all the time. Sometimes maybe you'll fail in February, maybe you'll fail in March, or maybe even make it to April. But the idea here is no matter what it is, you have to have a firm foundation so you can build it on. And so let's shift the idea here of just a resolution, and let's start talking about the word habits. Because habits work very differently. Habits don't ask if you feel like doing something, because here's the key. It removes the question entirely. And when the question disappears, then consistency is all that's left. It's the only thing that does appear. So how do you do this? So how do you build habits that remove decisions? And this is the shift I want your minds to do. Habits truly do succeed because when you remove decision fatigue, all that's left is the habit. So let me break this down. When we decide to put a habit in place and we truly choose to make that habit for real, then we've removed something else. We've replaced something else. Maybe it's a bad habit. Maybe it's some inconsistency. Social media, things like this is where good resolutions come. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And you fill that space with something new. This idea is really more called, you could even call this fasting. This is a fun way of learning a new concept. Most people take fasting and they relate it back to religion, right? Hold on a second. That's great. And religion has kind of isolated and made fasting kind of cool, right? But in reality, right, they've kind of taken it all over. But in reality, fasting goes all the way back in time. This goes way back before even organized religion really existed. And the people would utilize this as a replacement for mind, body, and soul. They would remove something from their life, fasting from it, and replace it with something else. If you choose that you're going to remove social media, great, wonderful, but then fill that hour with something else. It's the same way that they used to do fasting from food. The idea of fasting for lunch, breakfast, dinner was not that you just didn't eat no, those hours were intentional. So what I'm trying to get you to go is when you choose a habit, there's no negotiation, no emotional bargaining. You don't just wake up and say, am I going to do this? No, it's not a should I do this today? It's just you do it. And that matters, especially when you think about your job search or career pivot. Or maybe you're just going through a season of uncertainty and you're trying to get clarity. If you remove the decision fatigue, then you remove the choices that drain your energy. So when you can then dedicate that energy towards not showing up, but dedicate the energy to completion, then you create proper habits. So I think of a wonderful study that was done at Duke University by Wendy Wood. And she wrote a book too. If you want to check it out, it's great. It's Good Habits, Bad Habits. It's a super great one, right? But the idea here was that 40 to 45% of daily actions are habits, but they're not conscious decisions. Understand that. You're not having to process it. You're just doing it. So now that we have an idea of that, I want you to understand you don't need massive goals. Now, I'm a huge proponent for you guys who are part of the program that have gone through this or even been a part of my dream framework. Yes, you need big dreams. I want you to have massive dreams for yourself, things that just seem crazy to achieve. Of course. But those dreams they're not made tomorrow. They're made over a series of days strung together. So instead of thinking about January, about it being intense, about more applications, more hours poured in, more pressure, more everything, but think of January is not about intensity, but January is about sustainability. You don't need massive goals today. You need repeatable, survivable actions. You need to protect those actions. Actions that you can do when you're tired. Actions you can do when there is no motivation. Actions you can do even on that hard day when it's tough to get out of bed. And I say this to you because the data shows the market is moving. And we can argue up, down, left, right. That's fine. Bad hiring market, good hiring market. What's 26? It's all conjecture at this point. No one knows. Every day there's something new in the news, right? But what I can tell you is hiring is happening. I mean, we saw several folks get hired in November, December, just out of our own little community, right? I can also assure you that conversations are happening. I was sharing some voice text with some folks this morning. Conversations have continued all throughout the holidays and into, of course, early January. But the familiarity of this is that all those people who are moving through this process, they all have systems that they can move with. You have to have a system in place for yourself, a habit to be able to keep this going. So let me say this extremely clearly in case I'm not being as pointed as I need to be. Right? The job market doesn't reward bursts of effort. This isn't some 2-week sprint, some 1-month effort. No. It's consistent exposure. It's consistent networking, consistent refinement of your processes and your systems, consistently following up, and consistent visibility. And when we teach these habits, this is where our program is designed to not just teach you to be great for a short period of time to find a job. No, we want to teach you how to be great forever. Because if I can teach you how to be consistent in your hardest time of your life, if you can learn the skills that Tina and I have poured into this program, and you can become consistent in this daily when it's your hardest time, financial pressures, frustration, it could be personal struggles even at this point, right? Health struggles. Then your strategy will no longer depend on a good day. You will have survived all the bad days and you have had compounding 1% gain every day, and you'll never feel the delay in the future. I don't want you to rise to your goals. I want you to fall to your habits. When pressure hits, you don't become your best self, right? I'm going to become your practiced self. When you're in that interview and they're asking hard questions and you feel like you're struggling, I want you to be able to take that pause, deep breath, and go. When you haven't had the follow-up, when people aren't reaching back out to you, or networking seems to be failing, I want you to be able to pause and realize it's not you, it's them. It's not the right time. Go to the practice, go to the confidence. So how do we do all this? Because all of that's great. It's good conversation. How do you practically make this happen? So what we're going to do, and this is from overwhelming support and conversation through the Discord, as well as some LinkedIn messages and a few emails, which was super cool to see, right? Is what individuals are really asking for, what everybody in this community is asking for, is a way to do this every single day. How do you create your own version of this? And so what we're going to do is I will dump a worksheet that'll be available to you, and that we can go through the same concepts we always teach: reflection, discovery, execution, but we're going to do it a little bit differently with some little different ideas of ways that you can kind of get started and isolate exactly what habit is you're doing and what you're removing and what you're adding. We're going to do this in what's called the 28 days of really reflection and fasting, right? And the idea behind this is we're going to work really hard on building that firm foundation so that you can work through resetting your life, right? And so the challenge is this. I don't want you to chase the motivation this January. I want you to build the habits that survive without it. Doesn't mean I don't want to see you on these calls. But I don't want you to aim for perfect weeks. I want you to aim for repeatable ones. The idea of the 3 wins every single week, the idea of the 9 to 3 schedule, the things that we teach, is so that you can create normal routines for yourself that allow you to become successful based on habits that you're not thinking about. They're just what you do. It's just natural. So that way, when we go through these 28 days and February comes back up, right? You won't be worried about a foundation. You won't be worried about just if you have confidence. You won't be worried about how momentum. You'll already have all 3. And regardless if that means you've already got your job because you've just great execution in this, and I hope that's the case for everybody that's listening. Or maybe it's that it was struggle, but now you have the confidence because you learned through those struggles. You turned a loss to a lead. You've built some new connections. Regardless of what that is, you've pulled together. You'll be in a better place. So I know I told you about this idea of a firm foundation. I want to teach you this, where this came from. Okay, and I want you to see this, whether you understand fighting, boxing, MMA. If you do, you'll get this analogy. If you don't understand that, think about being a soldier. Think about what it meant to be a true fighter, right? Someone who's a Navy SEAL, for instance, and the training that they do. And I'll give you an analogy on that. Either one of these 2 concepts require an absolute tremendous amount of practice, preparation, physically. But I'll push you one step further. It's really the mental preparation that those individuals go through that are important. Because what will happen inevitably at some point is a fighter will get knocked down. In Navy SEAL training, they go through some of the most intense training. They put you on a beach, it's cold, they're wearing you out, they're PTing you, they're draining you of every last bit of energy, they're putting you through stress tests, they lay you down, they put you around backwards, feet towards the land, backs, of course, to the water. They put a heavy 50-pound rucksack on your back, so it's tough to even lay back, right? It's tough to pull forward, but you got to pull yourself forward. They'll put a log on your chest, and as the waves are crashing down on top, they're just screaming at you to quit. They just want everybody to quit because they need the very best mental toughness you could possibly have. And I share this with you because the ones that survive are the ones that truly understand the mental toughness, and they go on to be the best of the best, right? They're the ones, no matter what's happening around them, they have clarity. They have the ability to reflect on a situation, work through the discovery process, and then execute in the most efficient way so that they can be successful. And most importantly, everyone else around them can be successful. That the mission can complete with the least amount of possible damage or life loss. Now, that's the same thing as a fighter. When you get knocked down as a fighter, it's the mental toughness that gets you back up. But in that time that they're ticking away, that 10 seconds, the idea is not, they don't just get up to see if they can survive. They're getting up mentally preparing to understand what they have to do next. How did they get hit? Why did they get hit? What do they need to adjust? What were they doing wrong? What did, of course, the ring manager tell them to do differently? How did they make adjustments? That's the same thing for all of us. But they don't do that. They don't succeed in these moments, in those great moments, because they were unpracticed. They succeed because they were practiced. It's because they did push themselves mentally. So as you go into this 28-day challenge, and I know that those are two very extreme events, but I really do want you to lean in about your life, right? And understand that there are tough things. There are hard times that are going to happen for you, right? It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard. But what are the systems and items you're putting in place? What are you removing out of your life? What are those bad habits you're removing? What good habits are you putting in so that you can be successful, so you can do this? Because I know you can. I have no doubt. Every single person I've met in this program over the last 3 years that I've been studying this practice, and go back 5 years from really understanding the overall picture of self-development and design and build, all has led me to understand that there's not a single person on this planet that can't achieve greatness. We choose not to be great. And there's a lot of outside forces that do that. So as I wrap it up, and I'll of course send over and we can ask some questions, we can talk, I want you to think about this. What are the things that you can remove from your life that will give you the opportunity to add so that you can have sustainable energy going forward? And if this resonates with you, and jump into, of course, the 28-day challenge. Let's have some conversation. You'll see the sheet. You can fill it out yourself. You can share your ideas, the things you're working on, what you picked up. That'd be great. You can message me directly inside Discord. I'd love to hear from you, right? Connect for me on there. If you're listening to this after the fact, first join the Discord. Come be a part of our world, right? If you're looking, you're like, no, I'm ready. I want to jump in on I want to learn all those things you were talking about, Stephen. I want to learn those tools. I want to meet with Tina around my resume. I want to get myself started, and I want to remove bad habits and put good habits in for my job search. Then join us in either our premium or, of course, our monthly subscription. $59.99 for the monthly subscription. Be a part of our world. Come be with us, and let's do this all together. That's the exciting part about what this is because if we have the right motivation, we have the right tools, we can do anything. We can do absolutely anything together, right? And you can be a part of the other 50 people that found jobs last year through this program, right? So anyway, I'm gonna stop and pause there. We've got a bunch of people on here to answer and to talk about, maybe ask some questions, but thank you guys. Let's be motivated. Get of course, the worksheet. Let's get involved. Let's get things going. And then we'll do some follow-ups every single Friday. I'll do my best to drop daily prompts for everybody so that we can make this 28-day challenge. But I also challenge you to make the most of this 28-day challenge for you, right? Maybe that's a habit you need to add. I'm going to hold myself accountable to be a part of this. I'm going to hold myself accountable to be motivated. And that'd be great to see too. So thank you guys. And we'll talk again, of course, next week at 11 a.m.